Let's settle in Nigeria, see what's going on there. We have our guest joining us, Bosun Bembe, is a fixed income trader with the Access Bank, and he's going to give us the latest. Just before I came on, I learned that the pound, the Naira, has dropped again, about 1,007 for the parallel market, while the pound has hit about 2,000 Naira for the pound. But another worrying thing, obviously, is what Fitch Ratings said. They said that the proposed foreign currency gateway bank announced by the central bank may have a negative impact on the liquidity of Nigerian bank. But let's talk to Bosun now. He's out there trading and dealing with customers, so he can tell us first-hand information. Hi, Bosun. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Amy. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Please, first of all, give us updates. What's going on with the Naira against the dollar, against the pound? What's it looking at this time?
So the Naira, what we've seen there has been a lot of volatility in recent time. Though the previous week we saw improvement in the turnover, just like when the government mentioned that we received about 1.8 billion. But in the last few weeks, we've seen a lot of volatility. Even as we speak, the official market, we've seen hit crossing as 1600 levels, and even the NIFES is closing at around 1574. So what the CBN is trying to do is to actually entice the foreign portfolio investors, but most of them, because of the movement in the Naira, which is caused by a lot of demand. So the forces of willing buyer, willing seller. So we have a lot of willing buyer and a few seller, which the law of demand and supply, when you have more demand than supply, then the price will start going up, which is what has affected Naira. We've not been seeing the supply. But this week we have NTB auction. The previous week there was an NTB auction where what CBN did was to actually work with DMO to upsize it to 1 trillion. But this week we have about 262 billion maturing on Thursday. So that will be an auction on Wednesday. So expectation is that will be the DMO will sell more than what is maturing. And if the rate close higher than the 19% at the auction, we might start to see this hot money, though is a temporary way of actually stabilizing the Naira by attracting the FPI to bring in the hot fund, which will stay at least to cushion in this volatility for like a year. So maybe by the time we see the result of the auction on Wednesday, we might see dollar maybe coming from the foreign portfolio investors to the market. But as it is now, the volatility, it continues, even despite various policy by the CBN.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I mean, we see the CBN making a lot of efforts. We want a flexible rate. They've given it to us, willing buyer, willing seller rates. They have allowed the IMTOs to sell at their own rates, no restrictions right there, So why does it seem so difficult? Is there something, or is there a special demand at this time? First, they said it's a school fees period, and then they said, the diaspora guys came for Christmas and are going back. Is there anything that's constituting the demand at this time?
I think the demand is just you and I. So most of the things, our taste of foreign things is a whole lot. So, and we import virtually key things. So, and when you are paying for this thing, you are paying in dollars, not Naira. And if you are importing and you are getting less from people buying from you, so because we export less, that's the reason why the demand keeps soaring. So what the CBN has done, at least what I think are working. Before now you see people, instead of keeping their investment in Naira, they start converting it to US dollar. But by the time the last NTB auction, we saw rate as at 19%. So if the rate keeps going up again, maybe you've seen interest rate as maybe 20, 23, 24%. Maybe this will reduce the demand by locals to convert their pennies in Naira to USD. So, but in terms of the demand is still there. So, and it's not the only monetary side that can solve this problem. That has to be the fiscal side has to come into. So CBN has done a lot. Last week there are some circular that came out on ensuring that if people are collecting PTA is not in cash. It has to be credited into an account. So is that debit or credit account? So these are ways in which CBN is trying to reduce this volatility which we are seeing on Naira. But it appears a lot of work has to be done because we've not seen the impact of some of these policies. As CBN is coming with policy, the rate keeps going up.
Yeah, keeps going up. I mean, hitting 1,500, 1,600 in the official market, that is very scary. But how much, talking about expectations now, when we compare the last auction to the one coming up this week, how much FPI do you think will come in? Because, I mean, that's one way of aiding the Naira.
I think the last auction, the information came into the market on time that the DMO upsized from about 400 billion to 1 trillion. But this one, we've not gotten any information. But the feeler is that will be an oversubscription, and DMO will sell more than the amount on offer. So the last auction, most of the foreign portfolio guys that came in, so they went for the auction at a rate of maybe 20-22%. So they didn't really win some of their bid, so which was the reason why most of them, they still have their Naira, and most of them, they are looking at, okay, where would the rate close? I think maybe 19% discount is not so attractive for them. Maybe they are looking at 20 to maybe 24%. So maybe we just have to allow the rate to go up to entice this guy, because it's by getting flows from them that I think this Naira will stabilize.
Okay, so please help us to understand what Fitch Ratings is saying, talking about the gateway bank proposed by the CBN governor, that it could have negative impact on liquidity. Help us understand that.
Yeah, I think what Fitch is saying is because the objective of that CBN policy is to actually have an oversight of the liquidity, dollar liquidity. So you have most bank. They are facing one corresponding banking, so CBN can have an oversight. However, because of the traffic and because of the volume of transaction involved, and not something that is going to happen in the short term, it's one of the mid strategy that CBN is looking at. Okay, maybe it's not something that is going to happen now. Maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, that's when they will come up with this strategy. So it's more like, okay, all my transaction is going through one corresponding banking. With that, I can have an overview of what is happening in terms of liquidity for dollar liquidity for bank. But I think just like as Fitch has said, if it is not well structured, if it's not well done, it's going to have negative impact on dollar liquidity for banks, because some corresponding bank or offshore bank, they might not want to face the gateway bank that CBN might want bank to use, so which might have impact on banks' FCY liquidity. So, but if it's well done, and it's not something that is happening in the next maybe 3 months, it's going to take time, and it's done properly, I think this illiquidity negative impact that it could have on liquidity can be mitigated. But if it's done is not done properly, it's not planned, it's going to have impact on banks' liquidity, because some offshore bank will not want to face that bank, and they will cut the lines that they have for Nigerian banks.
All right, well, we hope that the CBN, of course, will put things in place, structures in place, before they move on. Just before we let you go now, where do you see the Naira ending up this week? You have given us a bit of hope because of the auction coming, especially if the yields, go up. How do you see the Naira ending this week?
This week, I see the Naira will be at today now. It has entered, is going to about 1,600. But if at the auction, there's a bond auction happening now, which will, by the time the result comes out, we have 7-year and a 10-year bond, 1.25 trillion each. So by the time the result comes out, if the yield on that instrument, if it's as high as maybe 19-20%, so that is signaling what will happen in the NTB auction on Wednesday. So if the auction closes higher, I think we will see the dollar from the FPI. But this bond is not attracting the foreign portfolio guys. No, the FPI, they are not ready to stay for 7 years or 10 years. So they're just looking for, they're just doing carry trade.
Yeah.
Bring the money then go out.
Portfolio investors, very hot money right there. But thank you so much for sharing your views with us this afternoon, Boss Obembe, fixed income trader with Access Bank.
Thank you for having me.